Have you ever had an idea so bright, so clear, that it lit up your mind like a sunrise, and then you did nothing about it? We've all had those moments. An idea for a business, a thought that could repair a relationship, a flash of insight about our health, our money, our life. But here's the truth that separates the winners from the wishers. Ideas have no power until you act on them. It's not the idea that changes your life. It's what you do with it. Ideas are like seeds. They contain potential, yes, but a seed in your pocket won't feed you. A seed in your hand won't grow. It must be planted, watered, and nurtured. That is where the change begins. Let's talk today about how to make your ideas count. Let's talk about how to turn invisible thoughts into visible success. Because one idea, just one, can change your entire destiny. But only if you act. Imagine being handed a golden key. But not just any key, but a key that opens the door to life you've always wanted. Health, love, influence, freedom. Now imagine walking around with that key in your pocket, never using it, never turning it, never stepping through the door it could open. That's exactly what we do when we receive an idea, a spark of insight, and then ignore it. Ideas are like gifts, powerful, rare, and filled with potential. But here's the catch. Just like any gift, they come with a price tag. That price is action. Ideas have changed the world. One idea created electricity. Another gave us flight. A different idea brought us the internet. But those ideas didn't do anything on their own. It was the people who acted on them who brought change to the world. The sad truth is that most people don't lack ideas. They lack the courage and discipline to act on them. It's not that they're not smart enough. It's not that they haven't been inspired. It's that they treat ideas like decorations, not tools. They admire them but never use them. Think about the moments when you've been inspired. Truly inspired. You read a book and something clicks. You attend a seminar and your spirit lights up. You have a late night thought that feels like a breakthrough. In that moment, the idea feels alive. But unless you capture it, unless you say, I will do something with this, it fades. It becomes like a dream you forget after waking up. Too many people live their lives like that, full of forgotten ideas, missed chances, unopened doors. And they wonder why their life stays the same year after year. The difference between a rich life and a life of regret often comes down to this one question: what do you do when a good idea comes to you? Do you write it down? Do you build a plan around it? Do you act on it the very next day? Or do you let it slip by, telling yourself you'll get to it someday? You see, someday is a disease that will take your dreams to the grave. If you want to change your life, you've got to change your relationship with ideas. You have to treat them like gold, because that's what they are. Action is the bridge between what you think and what you live. Ideas live in your mind, but action brings them into your reality. It's not enough to be a thinker. You've got to become a doer. The person who moves the world isn't the one with the best idea. It's the one with the most follow through. The one who says, this might be messy, but I'm going to start. The one who understands that motion creates momentum, because the moment you act, even a little bit, your belief in the idea grows. Confidence doesn't come first. Action does. Too many people are addicted to inspiration, but allergic to discipline. They chase the high of motivation, but avoid the grind of execution. They go to event after event, read book after book, listen to podcast after podcast, and they're filled with good ideas, yet empty on progress. Knowledge isn't power. Only applied knowledge is power. The world doesn't reward potential. It rewards performance. And performance is born in the moment you say, I'm not just going to think this, I'm going to do this. You don't need 100 ideas to change your life. You need one, acted on with focused courage and persistence. One idea, when fully committed to, can shift your income, your health, your relationships, your mindset. The reason most people don't experience the change is not because they didn't have that one idea. It's because they didn't believe in themselves enough to carry it through. Every idea asks a question: will you stay comfortable or will you grow? Will you keep living the same script or will you write a new one? The first sign that an idea is powerful is that it scares you a little. It pushes you outside your comfort zone. It makes you think differently. That's when you know you've got something worth exploring. But the next step matters more. Do you act or do you run? The people who grow, the people who create success, are the ones who feel that fear and step forward anyway. They understand that courage is not the absence of fear. It's the mastery of it. They take the idea and they move with it. Once you take the first step, something magical happens. Clarity begins to show up. Opportunities start to open. People appear who want to support you. But none of that happens without the first move. The world responds to energy. The moment you commit, truly commit, unseen forces start working in your favor. But they don't show up for the dreamer who waits. They show up for the doer who decides. The dream will test you to see how serious you are. And your action is the proof. The value of an idea is always revealed in its execution. Think about this. Two people can have the same idea. One makes $1 million, builds a movement, changes lives. The other forgets it within a week. It wasn't the idea that made the difference. It was the execution. The world doesn't need more ideas. It needs more people willing to act on the ones they have. You don't have to be original. You have to be committed. Commitment beats creativity every time when it comes to getting results. Execution turns thoughts into things. You can't deposit a good idea in the bank. You can't lose weight from reading a diet plan. You can't strengthen your relationships by just thinking about being kinder. All change requires action. All transformation is built on the back of discipline. The idea is only the starting gun. The finish line is crossed through daily, deliberate, determined steps. And guess what? You won't always feel like it. You won't always see progress right away. But if the idea is worth something, then so is the work. It's easy to romanticize the stage because it's fun. It's exciting. You get to dream, envision, imagine. But the results come from the repetition, the routine, the work that isn't always glamorous. That's where people get stuck. They want the outcome without the output. They want the harvest without the planting, the sweating, the waiting. But life doesn't work like that. The marketplace pays for completed projects, not dreams. It pays for action, not intention. You've got to go from thinker to builder. The good news is this: you already have ideas inside you that can change your life. You already know more than enough to begin. You don't need permission. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a commitment. A decision that says, this matters to me. I'm going to follow through. I'm going to move from potential to production. That's the decision that changes everything. Because once you step into action, your self-image begins to shift. You no longer see yourself as someone who just thinks. You become someone who delivers. And that identity shift is priceless. Most people underestimate what one solid idea, acted on consistently, can do over a year, over 5 years, over 10 years. They keep chasing new ideas instead of developing the ones they have. But wealth, freedom, fulfillment, they don't come from quantity. They come from depth, from focus, from mastery. Pick one idea and go deep. Work it, shape it, turn it into something real. Because nothing will change in your life until you start doing what you already know you should be doing. And you already know what that is. The person who succeeds is not the one who waits for the perfect moment. It's the one who takes imperfect action in the present. You don't have to be ready. You just have to be willing. Willing to learn. Willing to try. The willing to get it wrong and then get it right. The willingness to execute is more powerful than the brilliance of the idea. Don't be the person who talks a good game and lives in the same place year after year. Be the person who acts, learns, grows, and transforms. Remember this: the moment an idea is born, a window opens. But that window won't stay open forever. Every idea comes with a shelf life. You either use it or you lose it. If something has been nudging you, start the business, make the call, the book, launch the project. Listen, don't wait for the stars to align. Align yourself through action. The universe rewards the person who moves. Not the one who hopes, not the one who waits, the one who moves. You don't have to leap over mountains in a single bound to change your life. In fact, most of the time, transformation comes quietly, steadily, one step at a time. It's not the big decision once in a while that shifts everything. It's the small actions you take every single day that compound into something incredible over time. The mistake most people make is that they overestimate what they can do in a short period, and they underestimate what they can do in a year. 5 years, a decade of daily effort stacked one on top of the other. This is the beauty of small actions. They may seem insignificant in the moment. They may not make the ground shake or the sky open. But when you take a single good idea and start applying it, slowly, consistently, intentionally, it starts to build momentum. You make one better choice with your time, your health, your money. Then tomorrow, you do it again. That's the secret most people miss. Life doesn't change all at once. It changes through habits, through what you do when no one is watching, through the tiny disciplines repeated day after day, even when they're boring, even when there's no applause. Think about the power of 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes of reading can change your mindset. 5 minutes of planning can redirect your entire week. 5 minutes of gratitude can lift your spirit and shift your focus. And 5 minutes of action on a good idea every day. Well, that can change your whole future. But the key is consistency. The power is not in doing it once. The power is in doing it daily. When you show up every day for your vision starts to show up for you. There's a compounding effect to effort. Just like money earns interest when invested, your actions earn growth when repeated. The first time you practice a new skill, it's awkward. The second time, it's a little smoother. After 100 repetitions, you've built a foundation. After 1,000, you've developed mastery. Most people quit long before that. They try something new, it doesn't instantly work, and they walk away. They don't realize that the first sign of struggle is not failure. It's the beginning of progress. Every great thing started as something small. You don't need to have massive talent to succeed. What you need is massive consistency. The small efforts, the daily routines, the disciplined choices, those are the quiet architects of extraordinary success. It's not luck. It's not magic. It's repeated work guided by a worthy idea. The gym session you don't skip, the meal you choose wisely, the book you read instead of scrolling. Each one is a vote for the person you're becoming. Those votes accumulate, and one day they tip the scale in your favor. But here's the challenge. Small steps don't feel exciting. They're not dramatic. There's no fireworks when you wake up early for the 6th day in a row. No applause when you say no to a distraction. That's why most people overlook them. They're looking for the big win, the overnight success, the major breakthrough. But life doesn't reward you for excitement. It rewards you for endurance. For the quiet discipline to keep going when nobody is clapping. That's how the invisible becomes visible. That's how potential becomes reality. What if you started seeing every small action as a seed? A single seed doesn't look like much. But planted, nurtured, protected, it can grow into a forest. That's what your daily decisions are. They may look small today, but they carry the DNA of your future. The call you make, the note you write, the routine you commit to. These are the roots of your legacy. They create momentum, and momentum is a powerful thing. Once it begins to roll, it's hard to stop. Momentum works both ways, of course. Small negative actions also compound. Skipping the habit, avoiding the decision, putting off the idea, all of that builds a different kind of momentum. It leads to regret, to stagnation, to waking up one day and wondering, how did I get here? That's why every decision matters. That's why today matters. Because today is how you shape tomorrow. The life you want is built one action at a time. And you always have the power to choose your next action. The beautiful truth is that you don't need to see the whole picture to begin. You don't need all the answers. You just need to trust the process of showing up. You don't plant a seed and come back the next day demanding a tree. You water it. You protect it. You wait. That's what it means to believe in your actions. You act today knowing the reward might come later, but it will come if you stay faithful. That's the law. What you sow, you reap. Now let's talk about what happens when you feel inspired. That spark, that surge of energy, it feels amazing. Inspiration gives you a burst of clarity, a sense of purpose. But the truth is, inspiration doesn't last. It's temporary. It's emotional. It's like fuel. You burn through it quickly. That's why you can't build your life on it. You need something stronger, something more reliable. You need discipline. Because discipline is what shows up after inspiration leaves. Discipline is what gets you out of bed on the days you don't feel like it. It's the muscle that keeps your momentum alive when motivation runs dry. Discipline means doing what you said you would do, long after the mood in which you said it has passed. It's easy to make promises when you're excited. It's easy to declare goals when you're inspired. But what matters is what you do after that. Can you follow through? Can you stick to the routine? Can you build the habit? That's the question discipline answers. It's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent. About showing up day after day, even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when you'd rather quit. Discipline creates structure, and structure creates freedom. People think discipline is about restriction. But it's the opposite. When you're disciplined with your time, you have more of it. When you're disciplined with your money, you have more options. When you're disciplined with your health, you have more energy. The discipline is the foundation that supports your vision. It's the scaffolding that holds up your dreams. Without it, ideas fall apart. Plans collapse. Promises become empty. The real battle is not out there. It's inside. It's between the part of you that wants comfort and the part of you that wants growth. Discipline is choosing growth, even when it's uncomfortable. Discipline is saying no to the easy thing so you can say yes to the meaningful thing. It's delaying gratification now so you can experience fulfillment later. Every time you act with discipline, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. And those votes add up. Inspiration gives you the why, but discipline gives you the how. Inspiration gives you the fire, but discipline keeps the fire burning. That's why you need both. You start with inspiration. It wakes you up, shows you what's possible. but then you shift into discipline. That's how you build something that lasts. That's how you turn the dream into a reality. It's not glamorous. It's not loud, but it works. And if you stick with it long enough, the results speak for themselves. The beautiful thing about discipline is that it gets easier with time. The more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Just like a muscle. At first, it takes everything you have to resist distraction, to stay focused, to keep going. But the more you choose discipline, the more it becomes who you are. You stop needing to push yourself. You start to pull yourself forward naturally. It becomes your identity. You become the kind of person who follows through, who keeps promises, and who gets things done. And when that happens, your confidence grows, your self-respect grows, your life grows. When you're disciplined, you're no longer waiting for the right mood or the right moment. You create the moment. You make the mood. You don't depend on conditions. You set your direction and move forward no matter what. That's the kind of power that builds legacies. That's the kind of mindset that transforms ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. They're not relying on luck or talent or perfect timing. They're relying on the power of consistent effort, day in and day out. You want to know who wins in life. It's not the most talented. It's not the most inspired. It's the most disciplined. The one who keeps showing up. The one does the work when no one's watching. The one who gets up after every setback. The one who doesn't need a crown to stay committed. That's the person who wins. That's the person who builds something real. Because discipline always beats distraction. Discipline always outlasts difficulty. And discipline always rewards the person who honors it. So when you get an idea that excites you, act on it. But don't stop there. Build the daily habits around it. Commit to small, consistent actions. Let discipline take over when inspiration fades. That's how real change happens. Not in the heat of the moment, but in the steady rhythm of daily decisions. Ideas are powerful, but only when matched with the daily commitment to bring them to life. Fear has always stood at the gates of progress. It waits quietly at the threshold of every breakthrough, every opportunity, every new beginning. The curious thing is, fear never really goes away. It just changes costumes. Sometimes it shows up as doubt. Sometimes it comes dressed procrastination. Other times, it appears perfectionism, indecision, or even business. But at its core, it's the same force. It's the subtle whisper that says, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? And that one whisper has been enough to silence 1,000 dreams before they ever took their first breath. But here's what most people don't understand. Failure doesn't destroy dreams. Fear does. Failure may bruise your ego. Yes, it may cost you time or money. But failure also teaches. It builds wisdom. It develops muscle. It reshapes you into someone stronger. On the other hand, fear offers no such benefit. It stops you before you even begin. It convinces you to shrink, to retreat, to play small. That's the real danger. Not the risk of falling down, but the choice to never stand up in the first place. You can't recover from failure. You can't recover from regret that comes from never trying. Every person you admire, every success story, every world changer, every leader, they all had to face fear. And do it anyway. They were not fearless, but they were willing. They understood that courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of it. Courage is standing in front of the unknown and saying, I will move forward anyway. The truth is, fear and faith ask you to believe in something you can't see. Fear asks you to believe in the worst. Faith asks you to believe in the possibility. You choose which one will guide your life. If you let fear make your decisions, your life will shrink. You'll avoid the conversation that could heal a relationship. You'll say no to the opportunity that could change your finances. You'll back away from the habit that could transform your health. And then, slowly, your world becomes smaller. You watch others rise, others build, others live fully, and you tell yourself stories like, they're just lucky, or they must be different from me. But they're not different. They just refuse to let fear make their choices. It's easy to assume that the people who succeed were always confident. But confidence is not what starts the journey. Action is. Confidence is what grows because you start. You try, you stumble, you learn, you adjust. Each time you move forward, even a little, your self-trust grows. That's how confidence is earned. It's not something you wait for. It's something you work for. And the great irony is that the only way to defeat fear is to do the very thing it's trying to keep you from doing from the business. Make the call. Share your work. Speak up. Write the first chapter. Apply for the opportunity. You launch the idea. You might get it wrong. You might feel awkward, but that's part of the process. What's far worse is letting fear talk you into living a life that's not truly yours. Because eventually, The pain of staying stuck becomes greater than the pain of trying and failing. Eventually, the desire to grow becomes stronger than the desire to stay safe. That's the moment everything begins to shift. Once you realize that fear is a liar, a thief, a robber of destiny, you stop negotiating with it. You stop treating it like a counselor. You treat it like what it is, a challenge to rise. Every time you choose growth over fear, your life expands. Every time you say yes to what stretches you, you break through invisible ceilings. You start to discover parts of yourself you never knew were there. Strength you didn't know you had. Ideas you didn't know would work. Relationships that bless you beyond expectation. But none of that is available when fear is in charge. Fear lives in the future. It's built on what if. And imagined disasters. Action, however, grounds you in the present. It brings you back to what you can do, what you can control. And in that control lies your power. One bold decision can reverse years of hesitation. One action taken despite fear can set your life in a new direction. You don't have to be ready. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing to do it afraid. Now comes the moment that separates the hopeful from the committed. It's the moment you say, I will. That simple phrase carries more power than a library full of ideas. Because when you say, I will, you are making a declaration to life. You are stepping out the crowd of hesitation and into the arena of transformation. You're no longer flirting with change. You're marrying it. You're no longer interested. You're invested. And life responds to that kind of decision with open doors, fresh strength, and new levels of opportunity. The people who create change don't wait for motivation. They create movement through decision. I will. That phrase turns a thought into a mission. It turns a hope into a habit. It turns a dream into a destination. Too many people say, I might, or I'll try. Let's see what happens. And those words keep them circling the runway of life, never taking off. But the ones who say, I will, they become unstoppable. They move with intention. They create momentum. They build identity. Every action they take from that point forward is anchored in clarity. Saying, I will, doesn't mean you won't be challenged. In fact, it almost guarantees you will be. But it also means you'll face those challenges with resolve. It means you've burned the bridges behind you and planted a flag ahead of you. When you make a real decision, your life reorganizes itself to support that decision. You start seeing opportunities you never noticed. Resources begin to show up. People begin to align with your vision. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You came clear. This kind of decision is a shift in identity. It's the moment you stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. You stop being someone who waits and become someone who creates. That's what power feels like. Not dominance, not control, but clarity and consistency. And from that place, your ideas finally find their way into the world. Not just as good intentions, but as results, as change, as contribution. What holds most people back is not the size of their dream. It's the hesitation before the decision. They wait for more proof, more signs, more security. But life rarely offers guarantees. It offers chances, openings, invitations. And those who decide quickly, who step forward boldly, tend to win, not because they're the most talented, but because they're most committed. I will is not a passive phrase. It's a pledge, a contract with your future self. It says, I'm in, no matter what. When you make that shift, from maybe to must, from someday to now, you activate something inside you. You begin to move differently, think differently, speak differently. You begin to carry the energy of someone who takes responsibility, who owns their power, and that kind of energy is magnetic. It draws people, it opens doors, it generates results. Not because you're perfect, but because you're present. Present in your purpose, present in your process, present in your commitment. The moment you say, I will, the excuses lose their power. The distractions fade into the background. The opinions of others begin to matter less. You stop measuring your worth by what you haven't done, and you start measuring it by what you're doing. Even small steps take on a deeper meaning, because now every step is connected to a decision. And decisions, real ones, have gravity. They pull your life in the direction you've chosen. That's the difference between drifting and driving. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is the decision to begin. To stop waiting for perfect conditions. To stop postponing your potential. To stop rehearsing failure in your mind. Say it, I will. And then take the next right step. Not the perfect step. Not the step someone else would take. Just the next one for you. That's how you build momentum. That's how you begin to change the narrative. And over time, those steps write a story that looks nothing like where you started. There's a moment in every journey when the weight of indecision becomes heavier than the fear of action. When the desire to live fully finally outweighs the comfort of staying safe. That moment is sacred, honor it. Step into it, speak it aloud, I will. And then walk forward with everything you've got. Not because it's guaranteed, but because it's yours. And when something is truly yours, your vision, your dream, your next level, it's worth fighting for. Fear will knock on your door again. Doubt will whisper. Setbacks will come. But when you've decided, when you've said it and meant it, nothing can truly stop you. You'll grab. You'll overcome. Because you're no longer relying on circumstances. You're relying on commitment. And that commitment will carry you farther than talent ever could. That's the truth about growth. It belongs to the both, the willing, the ones who decide, the ones who say it with clarity, with conviction, with hearting I will.